So just a reminder really to look after each other. We do have quite a big group of health and wellbeing champions across the region. If you're not sure who they are, then get in touch with me. I'm one of the regional leads, so I can point you in the direction of the people within your trusts. But yeah, just look after one another because we need to, don't we? So moving on to the agenda, we've got an exciting agenda for you. First thing I thought I'd say was, sorry to confuse you, my background tells you that I'm in Bradford and the agenda says that I'm in Rotherham. I'm not. I've moved to Bradford a couple of months ago, so I need to update my details on the ONF website, Meg. It's reminded me. But we're going to have an update from Meg just on the national update, ONF national update. Then Ben and Laura are going to talk to us about the educational outreach stuff that's going on within the region. And Ben's going to tell us about the neurodiversity support group, which I really do want to get to and haven't done yet, but it sounds amazing, the comments that I've heard from people that have attended. So really looking forward to hearing about that. And then Joe will just give us a bit of a regional update, what's going on in North Eastern and Yorkshire, and what you guys as our value makers have been up to, what we need to be getting up to, and what's next. If you've got any questions, just stick your hand up, shout out. We'll keep it as informal as possible, but it'd be good to get a bit of a two-way conversation in some of this. So yeah, feel free to butt in and join in. So Meg, I'll pass on over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Right, I'll just share my screen quickly. Can you all see that? So first slide that Aoife's kindly put together for me, so jumping in last minute, is a bit of a regional breakdown of the value makers across the country. So as you can see, we've got 650 people in North Eastern Yorkshire signed up now, which is brilliant. Catching up with the Northwest quite quickly these days. So yeah, just an overview of the value makers spread across the country. So for Future Focus Finance, we've had 17,000 more views on the careers website in 24-25 so far than we had in the whole of 23-24 year. So that's brilliant. Obviously lots of interest in careers within NHS finance. We've had 86% of trusts and ICBs now at least level 1 accredited, and within the North Eastern Yorkshire there's only 2 organisations left. So I think it's Northumbria Healthcare and Leeds Community. So hopefully we can get those 2 organisations over the line, and then that's the whole region accredited, which is brilliant. The access to accountancy programme is now available for all departments to take part in. So if anyone is interested in finding out a bit more about access to accountancy, there's information on our website, or you could just get in touch with us through the ONF central team inbox. The staff survey sample for 2024, we had 210 organisations take part this year, last year, and that's up from 193 the year before. So that's really good. It's definitely going in the right direction. At the moment, we're just doing the further analysis on this, so pulling together the regional comparisons and that benchmarking tool which sits on the website. It's like the big spreadsheet where you can look at where your organisation is and compare it with other regions, other organisations within North Eastern Yorkshire, and just sort of see where you've come in with the staff survey. And we've got our meeting on the 30th of April, where we sort of go through all of the feedback that's come through from this. So if any of you are able to send through your directorate scores, that would be really useful for us to take to that meeting on the 30th. So moving on to the academy, the talent management strategy, we sent out a national temperature check survey, or we're sending it out between now and June, sorry. And we've got our annual report regional updates. So each region will come to the FLG in June and sort of update on where they're at with the talent management strategy and how it's all going within the region. We've also simplified our guidance and documents and templates around this. So they've not been released yet. I think Kaya's still working on these, but once they're ready, they'll be circulated to all the regions. Development programme wise, we've got Career Shapers and Accelerate that have just opened. Their applications are open until the 30th of May, so still got a couple of weeks. The links are they're already in this slide deck, which I'll send around to you, so easy to access. But if any of you are either bands 2 to 4 for career shapers or at deputy level, then please sign up, or if you could share it within your organisations and within your ICSs, that would be brilliant. And then finally, the Insights Placement Scheme is going really well this year. It just seems to get more and more popular. We created a TikTok video, well, Kaya did. Well, she worked with an influencer actually to put it together, but we got over 81,000 views on it, which is crazy. And we've had 321 applications so far, and 20 of them have come from North Eastern Yorkshire, which is great. And then finally, we've got the Innovation Forum. So we've had 25 innovations submitted to the recent cohort, which is cohort 11. And 9 of those have come from North Eastern Yorkshire, which is brilliant. And we'll be publishing the successful ones in May. We've got a lot of sessions going on at the moment around process redesign with AI. I think this is the way that working seems to be going. So I think it'd be quite a good sessions for everyone to get along to and understand how it works. Rich is doing a brilliant job with all of these sessions. So I think the first 2 are fully booked now, but you can see there's 3 dates on the screen that we still have spaces for. Again, I'll share these links with you so you can book on if you're interested. And Rich has also been working on the librarian, as he calls it, but it's going to be an inbuilt AI on our website, and it's only for the innovations because we've got so many now. It's really hard to sift through them all when you're looking for specific examples. So once the AI librarian's ready, you'll be able to just type in what specific thing you're looking for, and then they'll pull up all the different innovations that have been submitted that might be suitable. So just make it a bit easier to actually use all the great work that's been shared through the forum, which is really good. And then finally, as always, got a lot of events coming up. I will circulate, rather than just going through all of them one by one, I'll circulate this link, this slide deck with you, and there's links to each of them where you can book on via the website. But there's lots going on, some health and wellbeing stuff. We've got our big NHS Finance Inclusion Conference, which is focusing on LGBTQIA+, which will be really interesting. We've got some interview and application planning sessions, some innovation stuff, so a little bit of everything. But yeah, like I said, I'll share all this with you, and you've got access to all the links. And that's everything from me.
Thanks, Meg. There's all sorts going on, isn't there?
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
Has anybody got any questions or comments on any of that? Helena?
I'm quite interested to attend the the webinar, AI webinar process redesign. Can you please explain, what does it cover, that webinar? Because we've been talking about AI for quite some time now, how it can help, finance to make processes a bit faster, and, is it something that would be useful, because any previous courses, webinars we attend, it was just basic, general usage of AI, like presentation, meetings, but does this webinar covers some sort of more specific to finance? For example, we've got 2 sets of data, we need to make one, for example, and a bit faster, and similar to macros,
Yeah, so I think I've not actually sat in on this one yet, but I think it does sort of a general overview of how you work with that AI effectively. But it's also on the event description. It says if there's anything specific, like what you said, that you really want to work on within your organisation and change, you can come to the event with that, and then they'll work through it sort of live there, talk about how you could improve that process. So it is finance focused. But I don't know what exact processes they are focusing on. I think it's based on what the attendees want to work on. So they kind of they're all slightly different depending on what people bring. So yeah, I think from what you said, you'll get what you need out of the event. And I think the aim is that you would be able to leave the event and be able to teach your team how to use it, and then you can change that process within your organisation.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, it sounds like it's useful. Yeah, webinar to attend. Yes, definitely, yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Simon, were you coming in on that? Or...
Yeah, I was, because they did a sort of an initial session. I was on that, so I'm just going to explain what the session sort of covered. So it was really, really interesting, I thought, because the guy, I think, is from Microsoft, isn't he, or was, and sort of got a lot of background knowledge, and it was sort of explaining initially what the landscape would look like. So what we're using AI for now, what we'll be using it for in a year's time, and maybe what we'll be using it in a couple of years. And then he focused on what we should be doing now. So it wasn't just asking simple questions. It was like, take a process, for example. What is your process for putting a journal into a system or approving an invoice? Just describe that process to ChatGPT or a different AI and ask it, is there a way to improve this process? And it was a way of talking with the AI to take an active process that you've currently got and then being able to sort of come up with ideas to streamline those processes. I thought it was really, really good, and I'd recommend going.
Well, thank you. That sounds like something that a lot of us might benefit from, isn't it? Because I know I can ask ChatGPT to turn me into a doll, but that's about as far as I've got so far. Sure.
Yeah, just to add that Ollie Deacon, the guy that's running them, I believe, he's already done one, and that recording is on the ONF website as well. So you can have a quick look at that and see what you think as well.
Fab. Thank you very much. Any other
Thank you, yeah.
questions or comments before we move on to the educational outreach stuff? No. I'll hand over to Laura and Ben then. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Ben is here as well. He's got his camera off because he's got a bit of limited bandwidth at the moment, so we'll go on for the presentation taking priority. So we're just going to take it in turns to walk through things. But Laura, I'm from the Skills Development Network North East North Cumbria, work for project lead and working very closely with Ben on all things educational outreach. Ben, do you want to say hi?
Yes, hi, my name is Ben. I work with the Skills Development Network in Yorkshire and Humber as Educational Outreach Programme Lead.
So we're just going to go through a bit of the background of what we're up to at the moment and what's upcoming, the resources available and how they're being utilised. But as Amy touched on right at the beginning of the call, it is quite a sensitive time. We know with restructures and all the different changes, it seems to some people a bit strange to be talking about educational outreach. So it's just to say we are aware of that, but if we don't keep dripping into the future talent, there's always going to be a requirement in the future to recruit people into different roles as people retire or move on. So it's just to say that we're hoping that we can still make it a bit fun for people to come out that are enjoying their careers and, you know, share their lovely experiences with others, so we can really inspire that workforce talent pipeline of the future. So we will go through why it's important with you this morning, as I share some of the resources, and then Ben can give a couple of bits of updates on other things as well. So what is educational outreach? Some of you have been out with us already, which is great fun, but in the mainstay, it's our way of us as a business, as the biggest local employer in the NHS with all our different organisations and trusts, to go out and present joining our teams as an opportunity for those that might not be aware of it. So that's sharing experiences and resources, knowledge of the world of work, basically. That's what our future talent pipeline need to know, is what are the ins and outs of your actual jobs, because there's so many different roles in finance. So it's providing examples that they can engage with and making it real to them. So that helps us build some brand awareness, but also we know from people that have gone out, it helps bridge that gap between us as a business and the people that use our services as the NHS, but the community stakeholder element that's within that as well. So they find out a lot bit more about the value the NHS provides, which is really important to us, as well as attracting the best upcoming talent. We've been out and had some great conversations recently with some individuals that are 15, and I've got members of the team saying, I want to hire that person, can we keep in touch? How do we do that? So it's trying to get us a step ahead of our main competitors, with that potential looming recruitment crisis, because if we don't keep people interested, we're not going to be able to hire them in the future. And that really goes back to why. Sorry?
Oh, no, don't worry. It's your turn, Laura.
You jumping in, Ben. We've gone through who's doing which bit. So Ben's got loads of good stuff to tell you in a moment. But why is it important? So as we say, it's that talent pipeline development. If we don't make sure that people are aware of our roles and what they can do, they're not going to have the interest to apply for them. When you say to them, well, who do you think pays the wages and pays the bills? They go, oh, right, okay. So it's really broadening that awareness with students that might have an interest, that we are a massive local employer. We're on the doorstep. Look to us for job roles. And that brand awareness. So we talk a lot about the benefits that you can get for a career in joining the NHS, the holidays, the pension, and the reputation. It's a bit of a tricky one, thanks to Keir Starmer at the moment, and that announcement and what's happening with the restructures. But in the main, a lot of people join the NHS and stay throughout their career. People don't want to leave. What we offer is training, development, onward career progression generally is really attractive. So it's how we make sure that we put that foot forward. In terms of our corporate social responsibility, we need to be going out and letting people know about our careers and opportunities. We know that people that are in work are less likely to sit at home and be a drain on the NHS resources. So the more people we get into jobs, the better it is for our local communities. The innovation and collaboration that we've got there, we're thinking of different ways. I mean, we've been using AI a little bit recently to look at making videos and different things to represent different parts of our communities and our job roles. So there's upskilling opportunities for our own team members and how we utilise different skills, how we move forward as a future workforce for those that are already in our teams. We know that people that come out within that employee development, if you've got an apprentice or somebody that's joined as a graduate, get them out with you. They're their peers for the people that we're trying to recruit, and actually their career stories are really inspirational, and it helps with their communication skills, presentations, as they might have to in future sit down. And I don't think it does any harm. We know from higher banded people that come out, they really enjoy connecting with that new future workforce and showing that actually we're here to have conversations with in the future when you join our teams. So it's really, really great for community development and seeing that we're all just people, whatever level that we work at in the NHS. And also EDI, that perspective, some of the projects, I mean, Meg mentioned the Insights programme, the ISCB, when we did the recent census, they had one person that was from an EDI background and it was our Insights placement. But there's that socio-economic development as well. If we get into the grassroots of our community as well, it doesn't all have to be graduates. Some people can't afford to go to university now because of the cost implications. So we really need to make sure that careers in NHS finance are accessible to all, and going out and having conversations with people that are 16 and might be looking for an apprenticeship is absolutely the way to do it. But we need to plant the seed early enough that they choose GCSEs that align to a career in finance and their apprenticeships and moving on. So it all ties together really, really nicely. So as we say, just business, there's a little side there about why it's important that we make that investment now. That's all right, Ben, go on. As I say, why do we need to promote careers in NH Finance? I think I've covered it off basically, but it's just as a quick recap. It's all about how we plant that seed early enough to really demonstrate that our career options are really important. People don't realise. I went out to Newcastle University, and if people have heard us talk about educational outreach before, we sat with a room of 30 undergrads and said, has anybody considered applying for the NHS? And not a single hand went up, which was quite like, oh, right, okay, we've got some work to do here. So it's just making sure that we really, really highlight that we are an employer, we have opportunities, and that we will really welcome and recruit, and that we want the best. We'll work with people to develop you. We don't expect everybody to know everything when they come in through the door, and that's part of our commitment, is to train and upskilling. And Amy, you've got your hand up.
It was only in support of what you're saying, actually. I had a conversation with one of my colleagues just yesterday, and I was asking him why an accountant and what have you. And he was telling me that he decided he wanted to be an accountant because he did a placement when he was in year 10, so like work experience placement, and enjoyed it. But he'd never ever considered the NHS as a career for accounting. It was only because a family friend worked in NHS finance that he even knew about finance in the NHS. So that's a really good example, as people don't know here. So I think, well, you know how passionate I am about this stuff, but I think that was a really good example of why.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's almost like we're a secret family in the NHS. Unless you know somebody that knows somebody, you're not getting in through the door. So we need to shout more widely. And we had our digital conference recently, and somebody said, "Oh, we need to be advertising in cinemas." And I was like, "You realise that'd be like £3,000 for an advert?" And I sat in a cinema recently, and all the parents are like this because they don't want to watch Sonic Hedgehog 3. So they're not looking at the screens. So, and there was only about 12 parents, and the rest of them were like 5, 6, 7-year-olds. Whereas we can spend a lot less in terms of time and resource for a 3-hour visit that's travel there and back and some time in the school and have a captive audience. So it's really making sure that we get boots on the ground as much as we can just to come and have some fun. We've got Steve Jordan with a question.
It was just a comment, really, Laura, just around. I remember seeing something in March about the top 10 companies for teenagers, and I'm sure the NHS was in that list, and it might even have been number one. So I was just surprised that when you asked that question to students and nobody put the hand up, because I was surprised when I saw that, because I thought, oh, it's in there with Google, Apple, NASA, and NHS was on that list as well. So yeah, just a comment, really.
Suppose, was that with context to a finance career, or was that
it didn't go into a lot of detail, but again, it was just I don't know whether you was it just finance, or were you looking at were you mentioning other roles as well, or
we just asked in general?
I mean, people see NHS as, it's like you say, it's such a big organisation with a variety of careers. The finance, I'm contracting, there's analytical, BI, there's such a range of different services. But yeah, I think it was either number one or in the top 5 on that list, along with these big companies that people know, Google, Amazon, Apple, and NHS is on there. So yeah, it's just surprising, really, because people do recognise the branding in NHS. It's everywhere if you walk around, isn't it? It's on every ambulance, and hospital, so people are aware of it. So
it's that hidden thing with non-clinical careers. If you go and do any educational outreach and you stand with students of all ages, they go, the NHS, well, I don't want to be a doctor or a nurse or a paramedic. And Amy will, I'm sure, be testament to this when you go out and you go, what jobs are there in the NHS? And they go, doctor, nurse, paramedic. They're like the Glastonbury high, like, headliners.
Yeah.
Pharmacist as well is a popular one. People know about pharmacists.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to be a pilot, you'll go on the helicopter, is one that we sometimes sneaky get in. Alina, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I'm just going to try to do quick, here. So I've been working for NHS in finance department for more than 10 years, but I can tell you my experience, it was really difficult to get into NHS finance. Because when I graduated, I went to an agency. If you've been with NHS for a long time, you know NHS professionals. And I said, I want to work. So I already work for NHS, but not in finance department. So I went to them and I said, oh, I just graduated. I would like to work for, got a job in finance. And and the person said, oh, do you have 2 years of experience? And then basically this is how the door was shut. And then I went to lots of different agencies and I had exactly the same response. And basically what also stopped me from applying directly on NHS jobs is because we always say, oh, you need NHS finance experience and you need to have the knowledge of Oracle, while students at university and college, it is learning Sage. knowledge. And this is another barrier probably for the students that looked at our applications and said, like, do I have NHS experience? No. Do I have knowledge of Oracle? No. And this is why I think we don't have much interest, like, because we can't really, the students can't apply their skills, what we can offer. And then lots of students learn about profit and loss statements, and we don't have profit, like, and this is probably the problem. But what I wanted actually, when I was studying AT, like, I wanted somebody come through the door and say, we've got some opportunities working part-time. Is somebody willing to work with us? But nobody came through the door, and only one private company came, and none of the students were successful for that job. So that's from my experience, like, so I had a different route, to get to where I am. I asked for being a volunteer, and I did 3 months doing, like, for free for NHS, like, but only because I already work for NHS. They will let me, like, just to be around and do things, a bit of filing, and I was just at the right time at the right place, like, got a job through agency, like, but only because people knew me and willingness to learn, like, so yeah. And my job was with Sarah Dickinson. She's, like, on this screen as well. Yeah. So Sarah gave me opportunity, like, yeah. This is how I got in finance, but this is, like, probably the barriers lots of different students experiencing, like, so that's, my story, like, yeah. So if we promote better, we'll tell in our application forms, other system and knowledge is, acceptable, and, yeah, be more open to lots of different students. Yeah, I think, yeah. That's everything from me. Yeah.
No, that's perfect, Alina, and we're finding that, and we're trying to get more people to open the doors more to different departments. I know Northumbria had some comments. They've had somebody that's been internally that was part of housekeeping, and they've had somebody else, and they've both moved across to finance now and working, so it's working well for them. Joe, if you've got some thoughts, you've got your hand up. Thanks, Alina.
Yeah, just to say, totally agree with what Alina was saying there. It's really restrictive. A lot of the adverts on the do ask for that specific Oracle experience, yet all the skills that people have in other finance departments are so transferable. And I know Laura and the Skills Development Network have been kind of talking to the organisations in our region, trying to get them to make the adverts less restrictive and open them up a lot more, which just adds on to what Laura was saying. My ideal in my ideal dream world is that as soon as somebody joins the NHS, actually the induction program includes a period of work in all of the NHS departments, because who knows what they want to do when they leave school. And wouldn't it be amazing that once you've got somebody good in the NHS, if you gave them that opportunity to gain experience in all of the departments, because we cover nearly every job aspect altogether, and you could actually find out where your skills really do lie, if that was an opportunity for people when they joined. Anyway, I'm ranting now.
Thanks, Joy. I know Lynn Hartley used to refer to that as the cook's tour, to get everybody in and out with the ambulance service in different aspects, so you can really see how we all fit together as a giant team. Amy?
I was just going to say something that we were exploring at Ardash before I finished was volunteering. So we were trying to increase the number of volunteers within the organisation, and the CEO was really, really keen to get corporate functions offering volunteering opportunities within their services. So we've been having a look to see how we could potentially support a volunteer in a finance function. That's something that could help develop that knowledge and awareness of what we do, and again give people an opportunity to have a go and see if it's for them. So it might be something that others want to consider.
Yeah, I've noted that down, Amy, so we can have a catch up about that. I know some different trusts like County Durham and Darlington do volunteer to career as one of their opportunities to get into NHS. Simon?
I was just making the point, because the last two people I've recruited at relatively senior levels have no NHS experience, because we only ever put it as desirable, it's not essential. And I came into my current role, well, previous role to this one, having had no NHS experience. So is it just some organisations insist on it? Because I just not recognising that in my own organisation. So I think it's a bit, as long as it's essential, you are going to cut a lot of people out. But if it's desirable, it's something you'd obviously want someone to have, but you don't have to insist on it, do you?
Joe?
Yeah, I think it tends to be. This is just what I've kind of picked up for the lower bands, because people just want someone to come in who can like do the job from day one without having to train them up, and that's where it's becoming really, really restrictive, you know, because people are desperate to get people into roles really, really quickly, and so they make it so that they want to get someone who's got all the skills on the software application that's in use, and that's where it's causing a problem. I think that's what I've noticed anyway.
I always take the view that if you can get people from different backgrounds and different experiences, will get different skills in, which is what you need. You don't want the same people doing the same thing. You want lots of ideas, don't you?
Absolutely,
Yeah. It's a pretty archaic notion that when we used to have like a lot of people applying for lower banded roles as career starters, I mean that's changed again because of AI and ChatGPT and what people are using to apply for jobs, but it was used as a bit of a way of cutting down the shortlisting from what I've heard from other senior leaders in roles that used to utilise that. But because people copy and paste job roles in a lot of organisations, it's still there. And it's that knowledge and experience over aptitude and what we can teach you and how well you're going to progress in the future. So that's very much what we try and promote, and we do whenever we go out. We are trying to dispel the belief among students that if it's an essential or desirable, if you don't fit them all, that you shouldn't apply. So that's something that we are trying to roll out and encourage, but sharing that information with the students. So on that and some of the experiences and the interactive engagement tools that we've got, I'm going to hand over to Ben, who is generally the main power force between the things that we develop, and speaking with the teams and getting some experience and generating some of the activities that we've got, which thanks again to people like Amy and others in the teams that give us little ideas, and then we put them together and just reformat them a little bit so that you can download them and go out with them across the country. So Ben, over to you.
Yes, thank you. So I initially joined just over 2 years ago, and the whole idea of educational outreach came from ONF themselves. It was a KPI that every organisation goes out to local schools and colleges and so on. But there wasn't a bank of resources that you could utilize. There was maybe one or two that were floating around different organizations. There was a few presentations, but they were more death by PowerPoint than actually having some interactive elements. So what we have done is we've created a plethora of different activities. We've got some lessons and workshops. So I'm going to go through some of the examples of what we've created and how you can utilize them, say at a careers fair or at in a lesson itself. So to make the promotion of careers fun and engaging, like I've said, we've got probably finance have got a big we've got a website on NHS Future NHS where we house everything. I will pass you the link at the end of this presentation, but essentially everything that you will see on here will be freely available to everyone on the call, or if you know of anybody who wants to participate in educational outreach, all they have to do is sign up to our futures page and you have access to everything. So if the resource itself is a longer resource, so if it is a lesson or a workshop, I have created a guide for you to utilize so you know exactly what you need to do, what you need to print or what you need to say and how to engage with the audience, because my background is not in NHS. I am an ex-secondary school teacher, so I know how to kind of engage with that target audience. It might be daunting for some of you on the calls. So if I ask you to go into a room with 40 plus 16-year-olds, you might feel terrified, but with the guides, with the resources, we've kind of done all of this work for you. So all you have to do is go into the classroom or career fair and etc. and just have fun really. So we've created these games for the students to have fun, but also for staff members as well, because we have heard some organisations are using these resources internally, so they're actually introducing other departments to what NHS finance is. So the most popular one that we have is, we've got two versions now, is of higher and lower. So this one we utilise. So if you did not know, Skills Development Network, we support staff in finance, procurement and digital roles. So this is a joint resource that we utilise when promoting careers in NHS procurement as well. But essentially, if you were at a careers fair, what I do is I will bring my laptop, I will have this game, and it's a great quick way to kickstart a conversation. So we've got all different types of equipment that the NHS procures, and we get them to guess the price and then compare it to another item. And it always shocks the students. It kind of, there was, for example, there is a waste bin, which we have to buy a specific type of waste bin, but it costs, and it just looks like anything you would buy from IKEA. And that's always the comment that we get from students. But it costs us £143 because it has to be at a specific specification and such. So we've deliberately chosen items to kind of shock the students and kind of kickstart the conversation. So if we present them with an item that is very expensive, and we always say, well, are you good at negotiating, for example? Are you good at having the gift of the gab and try and negotiate and bring that cost down? Because you can do that for the NHS, and that's how we kind of kickstart those conversations. This is a good resource to use if, for example, the students are a bit cheeky, or they're a bit disruptive, for example. They might not be bothered. So if you go to a careers fair, if anybody here has been, you will have those odd one or two students who are just after the free pens or after the free sweets or so on. But if you've got a resource like this, you can kickstart the conversation a bit more engaging and fun than just having a poster, for example. So higher and lower, I would definitely recommend you have a look at. This is one of the resources that are used internally. So I use this with a group of student nurses, and the response is, we need to start looking after this equipment properly. So there's a set of scales, and they were completely shocked at the price of it. And they said, oh, usually we just throw it in the corner, we don't look after it. But actually, now that we know the actual price, we need to start looking after these things more properly. So it's a great way to kickstart the conversation with anybody, to kind of introduce them to finance and procurement. We've got the prices right. So this was in partnership with, some of you may know Gail Wells. She's part of MIAA in the Northwest. She is a big advocate for the for value makers. So you may have seen her name crop up if you've gone to the national conference, for example. She's a big advocate for anything like this. So she came up with the idea of operations and things like that. So we have this printed out, and then all of the price tags would be different, and they essentially have to try and guess what that price, how much it would cost the NHS to fit a pacemaker, or for example. So it's again, it's a way to kickstart the conversation, because obviously the general public thinks everything's for free, but we actually pay for each procedure and treatment. So it kind of, again, it kickstarts that conversation, and then they're always shocked by the prices again. So we've got prices right. Again, this is about a 5-10 minute resource you can utilize with students and staff alike. But again, it's just a quick and fun way to introduce them to the NHS and finance. Then we've got a few 15-minute tasks. So this is an example of one. So this is a purchasing, again, finance and procurement task. But essentially, what we have done is we've got a problem and a solution. The problem is that overnight there was a fire in the X-ray department, and all the X-ray machines are broken down beyond repair. it's the student's task to go through 3 different options and choose which is the best option the NHS should procure. So it's not essentially just about the numbers. They have to kind of go in depth and make it a proper have to decide and have a look at things such as delivery and installation costs, reviews, what training the staff require to utilize the software and so on. So they have to make an informed decision. So again, it's breaking the myth that it's just all about adding up numbers. There's real life decisions that you have to be involved with. You have to look at all aspects before just going in and buying things for the NHS. We've got, thanks to Amy. So Amy came to us with a little sheet of different equations. So how much some procedures cost within the NHS. And what we've done is we've got 3 different examples, and they progressively get harder, and we get them to add up the and work out the costs of specific procedures. So we've got so there's 3 different scenarios. I know that there's one is a pregnancy. So how much does it cost the NHS on average to deliver a child? So they have to work out the actual cost, and then the cost of the staff, and then and so on. So it gets them using the skills that they're learning in the maths department and utilizing them in a real life scenario so that they can do this for a living. We've got needs versus wants. Again, this is a quick game where you get the students to say what is the best investment for the NHS. So we do have some silly examples, but we do have some serious ones as well. And again, it's just making sure we reiterate that we are spending government money. It's so we have to make those informed decisions. We have to make those investments, which is going to have a direct impact on patient care. So there's always one for the finance or the actual staff. Would we invest in a coffee shop for us so we can actually be caffeinated and manage the workload, or do we invest in a parking? So again, it's fun little exercises for you to utilize and have these conversations. Then we've got some self-paced resources. So for example, if you go to a careers fair, for example, you would print off this poster. They would be able to scan the QR code, and they would be able to have a go at some of the resources. So we, the Skills Development Network, have put in a bid, and we were successful in gaining software which is called Neopod. So you may have heard of SpringPod in your organisation, which is essentially we creating interactive presentations, but with SpringPod, you would send everything off, pay an extortionate price for them to develop the resources, and then you could go out and utilize these resources. Neopod was designed for teachers, but essentially we can create our own resources at a very small fraction of the cost. So what we have done in the skill development, we are migrating all the resources onto Neopod, so it can be teacher-led, it could be staff-led, or it can be student-paced. So essentially, it's making these things more interactive, engaging. So we can utilize technology as part of the conversation as well. So they can this task, for example, is a match-up game. So we have 10 different roles within finance and procurement, and essentially they have to match the term with the correct definition. So again, it's breaking the myth and the stereotype that it's all about accountants within finance. There are different roles that you can get involved with. We've got things like, so AI has been mentioned throughout this and for months now, but essentially we are introducing the students to AI because what we do know is that the role in within finance is going to become more reliant on AI, which is a great selling point for students because they are utilizing AI within schools and colleges already. So if we are saying that in the future, we are going to have automated approving invoices, for example, and so on. Utilizing AI, they're going to be interested in it and invested because you yourselves are looking at the future and how you can streamline and automate processes. So essentially what this resource is we get the students to manually approve an invoice which I've created, and then we have a look at how the future of AI will be able to do this for us in the future. So again, it's having a look at how we can utilize what AI is and the tools that are out there. Then we've got two or three lessons that we've created. So essentially these are 1 hour lessons which you can deliver yourselves, or this, if you have a school who's interested, you can send them all the resources, and they would love to actually have us plan and deliver these lessons. But essentially we've got 3 different lessons. So we have this purchasing for the NHS. So essentially, we give them a budget. They have to manage the budget. They have to then procure the right products. But halfway through, we kind of, it's breaking news that a VAT has gone up, and then you've got to then go back and revisit your budget. So again, it's all about what can the NHS afford to procure, and it's giving them a real life scenario, because things are not that simple within the NHS. Prices do go up. There's new laws and legislations and so on. So we give them a real snippet into what it's like to work in finance. So this is the main task. We give them all of the options. They have to work as a group to procure the right pens, the right plasters, the right thermometers and stethoscopes. We give them a budget, but we try and make it a bit more complicated and say, do you think you can get this under budget? Is there any way you could negotiate and haggle on the prices? So again, what we have done for the lessons is we've created the PowerPoints, we've created all of the worksheets and the guides for yourselves to actually go through and know exactly what you need to deliver. Managing a budget, it's a similar task. So I can show you here. So, but instead of it just being procuring a few items, you have a 2.5 million budget. And the students have to ensure that things are, so services are fixed, goods are delivered and so on. So again, it's on about how can we work as a team to manage a budget. And again, it gives them a real life scenario. So halfway through this task, we throw in the picture that even more things have broken halfway through the month. How can we then ensure that we fix everything within budgets and so on? So again, it's taking what we do within finance and procurement into the realm of the working world. So we get the students to take on your roles and have a go for themselves. So we're breaking the myths of it just being about numbers. There are decisions, you have to collaborate and so on. So these are great examples. These are, like I said, they're an hour long. We give you a breakdown of what you need to deliver within that time frame. One that's very popular at the moment is sustainability in the NHS. So from our experience, a lot of students are interested and in sustainability. So I was involved with a lot of interviews for the Insights program, which last year. And you'd be surprised with how many students were asking questions about sustainability goals and so on. So it's a big part of our jobs going forward and things like that. So we have a look at the 3 pillars of sustainability and what the NHS is doing to ensure that we are economically and environmentally sustainable and so on. So we're giving them different scenarios based on prices and so on. So how should we invest the NHS's money? Should we go for a cheaper option which is more damaging to the environment, for example, or should we spend that money, procure more locally, but spend that little bit extra? So it's it's talking, it's getting them to engage in a debate and have those mindful conversations with one another. But again, that's very popular, so I would definitely recommend having a look at that one. So this is an example. So the emergency department has run out of printer paper, even though we are slowly moving to EPR. There's still, you'd be surprised at how much paper is still being used within, especially the emergency department. So we need to order 1,000 reams of paper. We give them the scenario. We could go for cheaper paper, which is the process of making the paper is toxic to the environment, or do we spend a little bit extra and get recycled paper and so on? So we've got procuring, this is scenario one. We've then got an energy contract. So should we use renewable energy versus toxic coal and so on? And then the final scenario is addressing the bed crisis within the NHS. Should we invest money in the local community, so local hospitals and district nurses and so on, or should we just build bigger hospitals? So we get them to truly think about the different aspects of the NHS. I'm going to now pass you on to Laura.
Cheers, Ben. So with all of that, Ben's alluded to Neopod, which is our new software. So we've been utilising that to go in and speak to 100 year 10s at the Tynecoast Academy in Newcastle and Stevenson Quarter. So we've had a number of visits covering off a lot of different things, but we've had in total 13 local organisations and 22 people, and 6 of those organisations have people from finance come along and having really quite engaging sessions with the students. So the EPR modules that Ben designed, we do give the students insights into what the different job roles are that we support at the Skills Development Network. So that's finance, procurement, and all the different DDAT roles. So what we start off with is can you tell us what these words mean? We get a general sense check, and we've got collaboration boards. We know from COVID there are still some times where students are a bit shy and don't want to put their hands up and shout out, and equally that's then in the ether. We don't know what they know, whereas we can use Neopod and we can actually, as a teacher, we can see what those answers are, so we can give spot prizes and different things. And we found that it really does increase engagement and it keeps that interaction. We're dealing with students that are used to being on devices in terms of accessibility, in the sense of it's on their laptop, they can see it. If anybody's got any issues with sight, hearing, we can utilise Neopod for all of those different things as well. So we started off by asking them what finance, procurement and digital really meant, and as you can see we've got some answers there. So finance, it was obviously money, working with money, but we can start to unpick what their already thoughts are, these 15-year-olds, with what they want to go on and do. And then we roll that into 3 modules. So we have them do a business case, and we get them to pick 1 of 5 roles that we give out to them. And we get them to think about what a business case might look like. We do encourage them a little bit to use AI if they can, and it can access Gemini on their school laptops. And we walk them through how to create an engaging business case. We basically tell them, we're going to teach you to convince the people that you live with at home to buy you that laptop, that bit of makeup, that set of trainers that you want, just to try and make it a bit more relatable to them. But we do get some great engagement for them. We then tell them that the business case has been approved, and again we have all of their lovely answers, so we can go through and grade them and share that with the teaching staff for Gatsby benchmarks, which are something else that local government like us to align to. So we then move them onto the procurement stage, and again we get them going through. We have 3 pitch videos, or we get it delivered in person, and we get them to negotiate in the class. We had some corkers yesterday. I was actually out at the UTC with the procurement module, and one group said, we'll give you 40p a day because that's as much as we can afford, and with the NHS. Or you get some students say, can we have this over a 4-year term, not a 3, because we can't afford that, but we can spread the payment. And it's really getting those students to think about it, and we give them 3 option sheets. The the conversations are brilliant. You go like, well, I want that one. Well, we can't afford that one. So we have our experts in the room from procurement and finance going, well, what if you spoke to procurement and said, can we get rid of that project this year? Can we do this? We've got a charity that we use. Can we utilise them to draw some funds through? So it's just giving them real life experiences all the while from you as team members who do this job every day. And they really take that on board. So that was really fun yesterday. If anybody wants to come out, I've got 2 more sessions next week and the week after. But we teach them how to negotiate. And then what we roll on to is the digital rollout. And we have everything from, okay, how are you going to convince a consultant that doesn't want to get on board with this in terms of that project manager role? We have them looking at what needs to be uploaded into EPR systems, so what's relevant, what's not. Ben's mocked up some blood samples, one's void, one's real. We start getting them thinking about what the priorities might be, and it's just these little baby steps into thinking about what a career might actually be like and getting that interest. And then, as always, we go, oh, it's broken. So we have a nice little tick list of what they should do. And some of those things are switch it off and on again. Some's like call IT, some's like go back to paper. We even got one option on there, which is everybody panic and argue amongst themselves, which actually some of the students do click, which is quite funny. But it's project resolution and how we get them thinking about those different careers. But data analysis, we talk about a lot and how that could move through each of the 3 different options and analytics. But in general, there's 3 students that are part of the cohort that have suffered with ADHD and they couldn't get their medication and they got removed partway through a second session. It was a 2-hour session. And we were a bit taken aback and a bit sad as a team delivering it that they'd been removed from the classroom, but the headmaster approached me afterwards and said, actually, the resources that we're presenting, normally they wouldn't last 15 minutes. And they'd gone into that second hour, and they were fully engaged. And Dan, who's the headmaster at the UTC, was really appreciative of the time that yourselves as colleagues that were delivering the resources had taken to keep them engaged and actually kept them in the room as a learning opportunity. So I have to say thanks to the individuals that were out with me for that session, because it really is making an impact. So Ben, you've got a couple little more slides on how to get involved.
Yep. Sorry about the technical difficulties. The internet here is not the best, but essentially, you've seen some of the resources that we have available. Like I mentioned, they're all free for you to utilize. All you've got to do is sign up to our futures page. We are hoping to eventually put these on the SDN website, but because we've just recently had a revamp, we're working on making sure that's up to scratch and sorting out any errors and such. So that will be eventually coming. But essentially, if you're interested and engaged and want to go to your local college or school or university, you may be wondering, how do I get started with this process? So what I've done is I've come up with 5 steps for you to take to kickstart your conversations within schools. So step 1 would be to contact your organisation's outreach officer. So the name of this job role will differ within each organisation. So there's school outreach officer, there's widening participation officers. It might fall under recruitment and so on. So if you get in touch with the recruitment team, there's always going to be somebody who has all the contacts with the schools and colleges within your area, because they're already going out to schools, they're promoting careers in finance and NHS, sorry, but they're looking at the more nursing and the clinical roles that are available. They don't typically go out and promote careers in finance. So if you get in touch with your outreach officers, you explain that you've got a bank of resources that you'd like to utilize. I'd like to start these conversations with the local schools. Please can you set up some meetings and so on with the schools? They'll have the direct emails that email addresses that are required to do so. So What we have done as part of our bank of resources is we've created PDFs and posters that you can send to the schools themselves. So it summarises why it's a win-win situation for both you and the school. We allude again to the Gatsby benchmarks, which essentially is criteria that schools and colleges need to meet. They have to provide real work-life skills and scenarios and give them that experience. And this falls under that remit. So if you go to a school that you would like to, you'd like to spend an hour with your students promoting careers in finance, we've got a lesson, we've got resources. They will be grateful that you want to go in and do that. It's all about arranging a time. So step 3 is liaising with your organisation's outreach officer and the school or college themselves, and making sure that you can set up the appropriate time to spend with the students. And during that time, you'll ask them whether or not they require DBS and so on. 9 times out of 10, the teacher will be in the room anyway, so they will be able to monitor behaviour and such. So you will never be on your own with the students. Step 4 is then to go back onto the futures page and have a look at all the resources we've created. During step 3 and 4, it is essential that you ask them what they expect of you. So when we kickstarted this program, organisations would go out to a college and say, we've got resources, we'd like to come in and promote careers in finance. They grabbed them by the hand and said, yes, we would love you to come along. They gave them a date, they arrived. What they thought it would be, they thought they'd be in a classroom with students and have about an hour, but it was actually a full day careers fair. So they weren't necessarily prepared. They did use the resources and they were able to have these conversations with students, but they didn't get the true benefits of what they could have got out of that session because they didn't know that context and information. So please make sure that you ask them exactly what they would like from you, and every scenario we've got resources for each to suit that scenario. And then step 5 is to present and promote careers in NHS finance. So it might be daunting, you might fear going into a classroom or speaking to 100 plus students as a career fair, but once you've done it once or twice, you build up the confidence, you have fun with them, you have these great conversations, and you get to see the good side of the younger generation, because a lot of people think they're not interested and so on. So having these conversations, you'll be surprised at how many people want to make a difference. And that's why we need to go out and promote that you can still have a career in finance and make a difference, because NHS, that's what we do within NHS finance. So those are the 5 key steps to take. If you do require some more guidance, myself and Laura are available for you to set up meetings. We've got some contact details later on in the slides, but essentially, if you've got any more questions or you've got any ideas of resources that you'd like us to create and collaborate with, we can do that. Conscious of the time, and Joe's put her hand up. So Joe, would you like to come in?
Just a quick one. Have you got a list of all the schools and colleges that you've already visited? Is there any harm in doing it again? I presume you'd prefer we went to a different set of schools and colleges.
So we are in the process of kind of creating it like a database of schools and such, but it's getting the organisations to feed that information back to us. So we do have some MS forms that we do send people. But we don't currently have a list of all the schools that have been attended. But what we do say is you can go to the same school in a different, maybe go a year later or a different year group and so on. So if you do start building those connections, they will ask you to come back in and present and so on. So there's no harm in going back to the same schools, because you're just reinforcing that relationship and that connection between the NHS and that year group. Laura, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, just to reinforce what Ben said is absolutely if you go in and it's successful, they'll ask you to go back and again. Your widening participation officers will have a hit list of local schools that are potentially from the more deprived areas that need a bit more intervention and direction into careers because they don't have as much input from employers. So they can direct you as a hit list to people that would really most benefit from it in terms of local schools, colleges. There's also the aspect of they might know that there's already work going on in that school, so redirect you instead of lots of effort going into one area and not into others. But let's be fair, if you've got a little one at school or a teenager at school and they've said, actually, can you come in and do a presentation? If you've got that connection, go and do that. Just make sure that your widening participation officers are aware so they can track it, because they look at entry points and what's feeding in and what's successful, to be able to put more money into projects, or if it's not working, to curtail that funding. So it's really important that you do keep them up to date with where you're going and when, just for use of resource.
Okay. Yep, brilliant. So I'm just going to whiz through these last few slides, and then we've got some time for questions, and then I'll go on to neurodiversity. But essentially, some tips and tricks on how to engage. So the best way to engage is to relate, to give them your real stories. So how you joined the NHS, why you joined the NHS, and why a career in finance. Give them an insight into how you kickstarted your career, and break that myth and stereotype that you need a degree to succeed within finance. There are a few directors within our region who never went to university and they've still managed to work their way up to directorate role. So break down these stigmas and these blocks which are potentially stopping all these young people joining us in a career in finance. Relate, like Laura's reiterated during the UTC, relate a career in finance to their interests. So we always say, I always kind of, if they're a little bit cheeky, for example, and they're saying, oh, what's that, blah, blah, blah. I say, well, do you like shopping, for example? Do you like that kind of, and they always say, oh, yeah. I said, well, do you know you could do this for a living? You could do this for the NHS and actually have commit to doing this and good by the community and such. So we kind of reiterate that although there is going to be some Excel spreadsheets and calculations and such, blah, 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 but actually we are all here to help those clinical staff do their job and treat patients in a cost-effective and safe way. So relate a career in finance to their interest. Like I said, it does work. We do have conversations, and it's always good. Like Laura mentioned, if you go out around Christmas time and you want to negotiate, if you want to teach the students how to negotiate with the parents and such, that does get them interested, and you will have those interesting and engaging conversations. Simplify the message. So the NHS has so many acronyms, so many abbreviations and such. It's quite complex and complicated to understand things. Job descriptions, myself and Laura are working on as well. There's a lot of jargon on there, and they don't actually necessarily understand what things mean. Even things like bandings, they have no idea what they are. So when they look at a job advert, if it says a band 2 salary, they don't know what that means. They have to then go on and do some research. So what we wanted to make sure is we have simplified the message as much as possible, but to avoid all of the jargon. But we still want to reiterate the message that a career in finance is engaging and interesting, but you are still delivering on patient care, even though you're in the back offices. And then showcasing the impacts. This is the final one. So emphasizing that a role in finance is making a difference in healthcare. So reiterating the fact that yes, you may be sat at the desk most of the time and such, but you are having that massive impact, because without finance and without the money, the NHS is unable to run. So you want to reiterate the true, meaningful, rewarding aspects of our jobs. So we will send out the slides. So we'll send them to Megan. and Aoife, so you can all have access to this. So if you want to become part of our community, we have a futures page where we house all of our resources, our promotional materials and such, and there are some MS forms on there as well. So it's, like I said, it's free for anybody to access. All you have to do is create a free account, use this link, and then it will get sent to either myself and Laura, and we will approve that. But it will have a lot of the resources which you have seen on today's. It doesn't have the UTC workshop on as yet, and that's because we're currently the UTC Newcastle is our kind of our test run of this before we kind of publish and make it accessible to everyone. But please feel free to go on to the website and have a look. And then yes, we've got some. Hopefully, we've got some time just to answer a few questions before I introduce the neurodiversity support group.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Laura. And wow, every time you talk to me about this stuff, it seems to have grown and grown and grown. Conscious I'm not doing a very good job of chairing here because we're about 15 minutes overrunning. But has anybody got any comments or questions on any of this? Looks amazing. Looks really good.
I think it was such a thorough topic. You've covered everything, I think. Thanks, guys.
But if you do have any questions, just pop them in the chat and then myself and Laura can answer them. But I just want to briefly introduce people because I did tell the regional board that I would do this. So in the Skills Development Network, it was brought to our attention that we don't necessarily support all of our neurodivergent colleagues within both regions. So we had a member of procurement come to us and say, what does the Skills Development Network do to support those who are neurodivergent? And that's kind of kick-started our support group. So it's available within both Yorkshire and Humber and North East North Cumbria. But essentially, what we have done is we've created a support group that's open to those who are neurodivergent, awaiting a diagnosis or suspect they are neurodivergent. And it's a bi-monthly meeting that we have. It's usually chaired by myself, and then we will have a guest speaker or trainer. The meeting is 2 hours long. For the first hour, we delivered training. So what we did as part of the initial setup of this group is we asked delegates what they would like support on. So what we do is we go out and try and find people to come to our group and provide this training. So we do have a session next week, and we have the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager for Harrogate. So Yorkshire and Humber is hosted by Harrogate's team. And so Richard is coming along to talk about neurodivergent policies and procedures within organisations and how you can tap into your organisation to get the support you require. We've made changes to our events page and booking forms. So this is coming to the North East. We're just getting approval from the new manager. But essentially, whenever you book onto an event via the SDN website, at the bottom of the page before you proceed or click to book on, there's, as you can see in this box here, there is further training information. So we've got a lot of feedback from the colleagues on our group that they wanted to know whether or not cameras were a necessity, whether there's group work involved and so on. So what we have done as part of the setup of 2026 events is we went to all of the external trainers and we asked them these questions. So all the information is now available on the website. When you do book on, there is a new option box. So as you can see here, it will ask you, are you neurodiverse? Awaiting a diagnosis, suspects you may be neurodivergent. There's yes, no, or maybe. If you select yes, an additional box will appear and you can then input any reasonable adjustments or information the trainer needs in order to support you and make sure this training event that you're attending, whether in person or online, is neuro-inclusive. So please feel free to utilize that box. We do have some online sessions, which we do have, so that each session on the left is available. So there's about 100 places. We've got currently only about 25, 30 booked onto each of these. But essentially, if you'd like to learn more about neurodiversity, workplace adjustments and recruitment and retention of neurodivergent staff, we've got some webinars that you can join. They are both open to both regions. If you are in Yorkshire and Humber, I think there's approximately 3 or 4 places left on this, but there's a full day event which I will be attending with my colleague Laura Hill, where it's a full day's worth of training on. It's more aimed at managers. So if you're a manager or a senior leader and you would like to learn how to best support your colleagues, please book yourself onto this course. It will be hosted in the studio in Leeds. And then finally, before you're probably sick to death of my voice, I'm so sorry, but finally, in response to a lot of the feedback from the group, my role now is kind of merging and changing as we speak. So I will be delivering sessions at conferences. So I am presenting tomorrow. I'm doing 2 workshops on neurodiversity in the workplace. So I have developing workshops to both inform and then direct actions on how to make the NHS more neuro inclusive, because the feedback that we get from potentially members of staff in your own teams, it's quite bleak and negative. There's a lot of discrimination, a lot of microaggressions, there's a lot of bullying that still goes on within finance, procurement and digital of those who come forward and disclose their neurodivergence. So it's a big topic. You'll see it all the time on the news about ADHD and autism and so on. So what I am creating alongside these 1-hour workshops is eventually I will be doing a full program of sessions on neuro inclusion within the workplace. So how to line manage someone who is neurodivergent. So building those safe spaces, having those conversations and so on. So if you would like to join the group, you can find us on the SDN website. I think it's now right on the back page, but if you do scan this QR code, you'll be directed to this page. It may be different on the Northeast page, but if you do type in on the search function neurodiversity support group, please sign up and join. We're about to hit the 90 members mark, which is great. We started November, so we are slowly growing this group, and the feedback that we get is showing that we are having an impact. So yes, if you've got any questions about that, please feel free to drop them in the chat. But thank you.
Thanks very much, Ben. Any questions or comments on either of those bits before we get Joe to give us a very, very quick whistle-top story of what's going on regionally? No? Okay, Joe, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to have to rush through this. Can you have I think I've shared my screen. Can you all see it?
I'm sure it won't matter if we overrun. If people need to drop off, feel free. And we are recording, okay, so you'll be able to catch up on this last 5 minutes if you need to do.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
We can, yeah.
Great, okay. Right. As a quick content page, I'm just going to rush through this now. So I just wanted to do kind of a look back, because it's been 6 months since the last regional value maker meeting. So I wanted to update you on what's been happening and what's coming up as well. So just a quick look back, the census results came out, and as a region, we've done really, really well. You can see there that since 2019, in finance, our percentage of staff representing the population has increased for BME staff massively in each of the ICSs, which is really, really good. So we are definitely representing our regions on the whole. There are lots of slides out about this, and it's all on the Skill Development Network if anyone wants to look into these census figures in more detail. looking at the ONF KPI targets that were set in northeastern Yorkshire, well, across the nation, but in northeastern Yorkshire in particular. I know you won't be able to see that screen, but the basic message is it's mostly all green. If anyone's seen the movie Alexander and the really terrible, horrible, no good, bad day, please do watch it. It's an amazing movie, but there's a scene in it where the kid's eating a pen in the middle of an interview and he's all green. Anyway, so the fact that it's all green is really, really good. So that means we've achieved most of the targets. Just to focus on the kind of areas that we haven't. So there's only 3 real KPIs that we didn't quite hit in this region. Those on talent management strategy and all conversations held before March the 25th, but we are definitely on with that. All people attending ONF development programs, we have got good attendance, but maybe not across the board. And 50% of organisations submitting an innovation was one of the targets. Well, we have got lots of innovations being submitted, but it's potentially concentrated by a few organisations rather than being spread overall. The ones that I've marked as kind of amber, all organisations achieving level 1 accreditation by January 24 was the target. We didn't quite meet that. We will have all organisations accredited very shortly in northeastern Yorkshire. We've just got 2 to go, and they have both submitted their level 1 submission. So hopefully everybody will be covered by now. All those at level 1 working towards level 2. Some have been hindered by everything, particularly ICBs, I think. Where maybe accreditation isn't a priority because of what's happened recently, but I'm sure that'll be picked up again. And then some other targets were OneTrust by ICS, who adopted the PFR automation tool, and finance identified separately in the national survey. We were nearly there with those as well. So yeah, we'll soon be there, I think. And then all the ones that were done really, really well on that were green, I've just summarised really because there's an awful lot of green KPIs that we did achieve as a region. That's collaborating across the system and networking, sharing information and utilising the skill development network. Delivery on the EDI action plan, maybe that's something we could look at as a topic for another regional value maker meeting, just to focus on EDI outcomes and actions, just as a thought. And increasing numbers of innovation peer reviewers, we've done really well there as well. The ones at the bottom that these aren't recorded, so we don't have any actual figures to record how well we've done in terms of celebrating success, promoting finance careers and innovation showcasing. And that's something that we do need to improve on, I think, as a region, and adopting the EVO framework. So that's still to come, I think, that one. But we are definitely doing really well in promoting finance careers. We just haven't got the ability to record that. So looking at the KPIs have changed now going forward. So a new set have been approved. They're much less detailed. As for 25-26, the regional contributions to the ONF finance priorities are listed there. So there's just a couple in the FFF, Future Focus Finance workstream. There seems to be a big focus in the National Finance Academy work stream of training and developing our staff, and then just the one at the bottom there in terms of innovation. So they kind of really reflect where we haven't done so well in this region. So presumably it's a similar picture for the rest of the regions across the country as well. So there's please do share. What an action for you as value makers is kind of to share this information and everything that you've just been presented with today from Laura and Ben, and try and ensure that we do start sharing innovations and doing showcasing and that kind of thing, utilizing the library. And there's a real focus, as I've said, on promoting finance careers, talent management, and EDI going forward, as well as national engagement and still accreditation. So there are main areas going for the next year. Just a really quick look since we last met on the Regional Academy page on the ONF. You'll see we've now got some stories about the new people that have joined us in post since we last met. So Taryn Lake is now our new Regional Director of Finance, taking over from Tim Savage at NHS England. Some of you will know Taryn because she was Director of Finance at North East Ambulance Service. We have a new head of skill development. Lynn Hartley has left us. She's retired this year, a big loss, but we've got the lovely Shirley Sunderland, who I'm sure most of you will know anyway, because Shirley's a big advocate of the value makers and is one of our value maker leads. So Shirley's our new skill development lead. And we have a new programme lead for North Yorkshire and Humber ICS in the form of Delaney Gamble, who's taken over from Emma Sainer. So if you wanted to look into a bit more about these people, you just go onto the Regional Academy page and click About Us, or on the Workstream Leads pod there that I've just highlighted. Yep, so just to highlight that these people do head up the work streams for the ONF. So we've still got Kathy Kennedy and Amy Whitaker for the National Finance Academy, Nigel Booth and David Chandler for FFF, and Louisa Cowell and Shirley for the Finance Innovation Forum. Yep, I don't know what I've got to. Yep, don't need to say anything more on there, I don't think. Oh, there's just the images of all of your ICS program leads with Laura and Ben. So nothing's changed in that sense apart from Delaney there. And this is just a reminder that the ONF North East and Yorkshire Regional Academy page is your one-stop shop for training and development. If you go onto use the link on this slide, that will take you to the Academy page on everything ONF and Skills Development Network and Leadership Academy and the HFMA. So you can literally go to that page and then you'll scroll to the bottom and you can link into all of the websites for the associated providers who work together with the ONF. I'm looking to do regional updates actually in videos each month just to keep everybody up to speed, and I'll be putting the slides and a link to a video on there every month, hopefully going forward. I might even put this one on as well in case anybody wants to look at it in their own time. This is just to highlight what we've been doing in terms of supporting our staff following Keir Starmer's announcements and the huge cuts that we're having to make and the loss of the NHS England and the cuts in ICBs. So we've been sharing useful resources to support staff through these difficult times. And these, of course, are relevant to everybody, not just staff in NHS England and the ICB. So I've just put the links on this page all about supporting your staff. And there's resources on the ONF website, Skills Development Network. HFMA are putting on particular support sessions on mindfulness, group and one-to-one coaching that you can register your interest on, but you do have to be a member for that. But it is free to bands 2 to 6. And then North East Leadership Academy has got a coaching and mentoring kind of hub where you can sign up for that program as well. So there's lots of stuff out there to support you in your roles. I just wanted to highlight, I think I've mentioned this before, but there is a new parental return to work programme that's been launched in North Eastern Yorkshire. So basically this is if you have returned to work in finance in 2025, or you will be returning after a long period of parental leave and are feeling a bit out of touch or a bit worried about how you're going to manage balancing work with being a parent, then this is a really good opportunity, a networking opportunity that you can let your colleagues know about, please. You would need to be able to commit to join the programme to take part in sessions on the 12th of June and the 26th of June. It's advertised on the Skills Development Network, and you'll see it as soon as you log in as one of the items on the opening banner. But there's a link on this slide, and we're asking people to register their interest by Friday, the 30th of May, and we'll get that off the ground. There's a little quick recap of what's involved in the programme, but basically 6 sessions involved, and then the opportunity to network after that through coffee and catch-up drop-in sessions. And it potentially could be, if this goes well, we can expand this not just to parental return to work people, but other people who have been on long terms of leave. That's just a little recap on the Health and Wellbeing Ambassadors meeting. Amy's got a lot more information on that, heading that up, but I just wanted to highlight that drop-in sessions should be placed in diaries for Health and Wellbeing Ambassadors, so look out for that going forward. A little update on conferences that have taken place. Obviously, in February, we had the ONF SDN HFMA conference in North East and North Cumbria with a huge focus on AI and getting future ready, which was the morning session was covered by Ollie Deacon, which was really informative. And there's obviously lots of stuff on the website about this. And sessions that have been recorded by Ollie as well, but I'll come on that a bit later. And then coming up, as mentioned by Ben, is the Yorkshire and Humber Finance and Procurement Conference on the 16th of July. So do look out for that and sign up if anybody can. Quick look at, I'm absolutely, I need to take a breath, sorry. Talent management. as Megan said, there is a survey out on the ONF website now if you want to complete that from your individual perspective on how you're finding the talent management process so far. A regional survey has been issued in this region to all deputies and TM leads in every organisation. I spelled deputies wrong there, which we're asking for people to complete by the middle of May so that Roxana can report both regionally and nationally on progress. So if you, I know I haven't got that many back in North East and North Cumbria, so if you could chivvy along your deputy to get that in, if they haven't already, that would be great. So yeah, there's a link there if anyone wants any more information on talent management. And this is just kind of sometimes again, it's a bit of a difficult time for many people at the moment, and people are kind of thinking, well, I don't really want to have a conversation, but actually I believe that this is definitely the time to have a talent management conversation, because it's an opportunity for you to talk to somebody to help you work out what you really want from your roles. It's a way to help you find your ikigai. I've just put a definition of what that is if you haven't heard from it, and like make you think about what you're doing when you achieve a state of flow. And it's all about kind of talent is I looked at talent, and it's a natural ability to be good at something, and a genius is just somebody with exceptional talent. So according to Albert Einstein, everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb trees, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. How true is that? So kind of the message is here is, well, we've got loads of people who are doing one thing in their roles, but actually they're really good at doing something completely different, and we've never even thought about it or harnessed those skills and talents that somebody might have as an individual. Well, having a conversation is all about kind of harnessing that, working out what makes you tick, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and helping you get a role that fulfills those kind of aspirations and ambitions. So it's really worth having a conversation just to help you think about that. Kind of linked to that, just wanted to point out again that the Skills Development Network now has the opportunity to advertise staff secondments, shadowing opportunities and stretch projects, as well as permanent and temporary vacancies as it did before. So thinking about if you want some more experience, or if you've got opportunities, I realise it's not possible for some organisations because of vacancy freezes and that kind of thing. But if anybody does have opportunities to advertise, then it's really easy and simple to do this through the Skills Development Network website now. Instructions have been distributed to each of the ICS programme leads in your ICS, so do look out for an email from them. But even if you haven't got the instructions, it's really quite simple. You do have to be the hiring manager if you want to advertise this through the Skills Development Network. So just to highlight that, you can advertise opportunities for short or long-term periods. It's whatever you've got available as an opportunity. Just a quick look, the skills, hopefully you've all realised the Skills Development Network website has been updated, so it's got a new look now, yeah, so just in case you're wondering what's happened, it's just been a bit more revamped to make it easier to look around, and you can see this banner at the top now advertising certain key things. Quick look at innovation again, just some things that I've been aware of in this region. So there's we've had Ollie Deacon doing a lot of work around the patch, and I know that many people, he's going to be doing a lot more work and things going forward. So the AI process redesign is delivered by Ollie Deacon. He's the ex-Microsoft Director of Finance. And there's also Hartree Training Portal, which is a free training portal. I've put the link there, kind of helping people understand what AI and machine learning is all about for anyone who's struggling. And Ollie's video on Are You Future Ready and looking what finance departments should be looking like in the future is still available on the ONF website by that link as well. And as he rightly put, AI won't take your job, but someone who is great at using it might. The message is just try and get as used to using AI as you can. So I've just put some examples of how the AI apps can help you in your daily lives at work and at home. Actually, you can use ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude. A lot of people are using it now instead of just Google, because it just gives you a straight answer. But these are some of the examples that you can use it for, such as optimizing Excel, formally designing presentations, summarizing large documents into executive level summaries. So really simple things that can kind of speed up your daily lives and make lives a bit easier as well. Just It does come with a warning, though. Obviously, I don't think we've got the information governance controls in place yet, so do not enter any kind of sensitive data in there. Just ask general questions for the time being, unless you've been told otherwise. Oh, some dates for your diary. The North East and Yorkshire Value Maker Network meetings are there. So we've got the 15th of October at 1 and the 11th of December at 1 as well. So please do get those dates in your diary. And if you've got any ideas for topics that you would like to be discussed at the next meetings coming forward, please do let your regional value maker leads know. They're all listed on the North Eastern Yorkshire Regional Value Maker Network page, which the link is on this slide as well if you're struggling to find it. And to finish, I don't know how I'm doing, what time is it? I'm overrun a bit. I thought I'd just do a top tip. I follow somebody called Oliver Berkman who wrote 4,000 Weeks Time Management for People. Another excellent tip. Please do read that. Really helpful and thoughts about managing your emails as well in there. So this came through as an email from him, and it was entitled "Be a Disappointment Now and Again," and I just thought it was great. He says that the older he gets, he becomes more convinced that it's a critical life skill. At least if you're roughly the sort of person he is to get. And you need to get better at disappointing other people now and again. And he doesn't just mean going easier on yourself when you catch yourself feeling bad for falling short of others' expectations, although you should do that too. But it's worth deliberately and consciously practicing disappointing others, letting the associated feelings sink into your bones, and generally spend time hanging out in the space of being a disappointment. I thought this was fabulous advice from my point of view, and if you're an insecure overachiever, you might find it a top tip as well. But I know I'm always trying to please people and find myself running around like a lunatic, so it's really good to be a disappointment now and again, and to put yourself first maybe. So that's my top tip. Obviously don't just keep getting things wrong on purpose, but think of it in a different light maybe. And that's it from me. Sorry, I've overrun.
Thanks, Jo. It's brilliant. And I was going to say, if anybody's heard anything in that quick whistle stop tour that you'd like to hear more about, let us know, because it's stuff that we can include in future sessions. So if there's anything that piqued a bit of interest and you think, oh, I want to know more about that, either reach out to myself or Jo or any of the other value maker leads, and we'll be able to plan it for the October session. I think it was October, wasn't it, the next one? Yeah. Any questions, comments before we leave? No, thank you very much for joining us. Apologies, we've overrun a little bit. I will improve on my chairing skills in future, but I didn't want to jump in on Laura and Ben because the representing was so interesting. It was really helpful to see, wasn't it? So it's lovely to see you all. A reminder to look after each other and get in touch if you need. Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.